reality is, as Torrin and I looked at it, the entrepreneurial highway comes at you really, really fast. In fact, oftentimes we don't see a lot of the things along the way. We're looking this way and things are coming at us from the side. Things are going very quickly. We're not even sure what questions to ask sometimes. Can you imagine not even knowing how to frame a question because you don't understand what the issue is before you? And so knowing that, we thought if we had a class that could kind of tip you to some of those things, maybe you'll be better off. So why this class? Because the reality is there's a lot of things that happen unexpectedly. You think you're doing fine, everything's going well. As we all know, we get whacked from the backside. And it's those things that you don't see that can really, really hurt you. And we want to give you a fighting chance on that.
The guys that are really blowing up, what pain did they solve? Was it something that they thought of? Was it something that they recognized that no one thought of? I mean, when you think about who's a massive success, you know, there's some really important things there, and you think about what that need is that's unmet. If you think about the other businesses, what's their differentiator? What's their one thing they do well? And so the other point I made is, you know, you need to figure out like what's your differentiator going to be. I have an ocean of choices. Why would I choose you?
I took the boiler room and the law firm, and I did both. And I took that compensation mentality and I took it as far as humanly possible. I knew there was opportunity, so I overcompensated. I paid people too much. Now, how does that hurt me as an entrepreneur? I make 10% less because I overpay? Allegedly. Allegedly. That's what some business schools would tell you. What I'm going to tell you is the 10 or even 20% that I overpaid people paid me back in spades. I have 82 people. We've been open for 9 years, and I've never lost an employee.
I can't tell you how that's going to happen. I can't tell you when that's going to happen. I can't tell you the ups and downs to get there. You got to believe, okay? And so you must be able to operate in a highly ambiguous environment and lead in that environment.
And, you know, and really examine what does your partner bring to the table. I mean, this goes back to even earlier than doing your due diligence is, first of all, make sure you need a partner, because sometimes we do it because we're too scared to do it on our own. And you know what I came to realize with my second venture is, you know, I had all the pieces, and could I do this alone? Absolutely not. No project, no success is ever done on your own. It's always about a great team, but that doesn't mean that they need to be partners.
So I had high hopes for it, and it exceeded my expectations in terms of the level of speakers that were brought in and just the companies that they had started and their experience. So overall, it was probably my favorite class in Marshall my entire 3 years, to be honest.
For years, as this boutique baseball and hockey firm, I had my finger on the pulse of everything. With 55 clients, international branches, can't do it. You know, you really bottleneck and stifle your growth in the transition if you micromanage. So I've had to force myself to trust in my associated competent professionals, my in-house people. So it's been very difficult for me as an entrepreneur to release the reins, but I have a vision on the big picture to achieve the Goliath status that I strive to be, that the monsters that were in baseball and hockey. I've got to trust in the fact that I got good people in place.
You need bad economies so the little guy like me gets a shot at being a big guy without having to take on any investors, any funds, any revenues. I've simply built a company, and we did it by what we call the tail wagging the dog, right?
Timing. Timing is everything. If you take only one thing away tonight, timing is everything. Sell when things are going well. And you won't want to sell then, because you'll be going, things are going really well. Why should I sell the company? The company's going to have great success. So don't be greedy. When things are going well, that's when you can create the best story for how much your company's worth.
And most franchisors will tell you this. They wish they could go back and erase their first 10. But you can't. Like, because where you were for the first 10, you're figuring it out. And then when you're going forward, that's really who you've become. But you can't get to becoming a franchise without those first 10. I mean, they bought into something that wasn't as established.
When looking for an investor, if you can focus on finding an investor that shares your vision for the company, the path that you both intend at that time to execute on, and the rough methodologies and time milestones around that, that's about all you can afford to be concrete on, because everything else is a pretty fluid environment, and it tends to be a reactive game, and your investor and you are both in a foxhole, sort of fighting a war.
When the folks were talking about, well, how do you grow? How do you go from being a small company to really growing? One of the things that was mentioned was finding good partners, and that's something that we've really focused on, differentiating ourselves from our competitors. The great thing about our sector is there's a tremendous amount of growth and opportunity there. The tough thing about our sector is we're dealing with some of the largest Goliaths out there.
I kind of saw, as what was going on in '97 and the trend of what was happening online, I said, hey, this is, and I still think it is to this day, just starting to get going, and if I could become extremely experienced in this, because nobody's experienced in this thing's only like 4 years old, 5 years old, I could be at the forefront of something, monumental.
What we do is every year, and even now, it's almost daily or weekly, we're constantly reviewing what's going on in the market, what is our business plan, and how can we make adjustments, because even talking to people at the studio, they're running numbers to the point where it's so mercurial, where they'll kind of prep a film and do their budgets, and they'll do it in multiple countries. And so they'll watch the, how strong the dollar is against Australia and New Zealand and the UK, and they'll, kind of watch what's going on in trends, and then they'll make the decisions.
Entrepreneurs are long on ideas, but very short on execution or focus. It's extremely difficult. I see it all the time. And what happens is nothing really gets done to the full capacity. So we have a process to try to keep ourselves focused. And it's pretty simple. It's all about communication. We believe that radical stability allows for radical change.
But it was very engaging. The interest level was high amongst the group. There's great engagement. The professors are very open, both during class, after class, between classes. If you want to get some good contacts and take a great class, I highly recommend this one. It was outstanding.